Film Club.
I normally plough through about 2 or 3 a night.
Thank you very much for joining us this episode of Film Club. I'm one of your hosts, Andy Harrison. To my right, as always, it's the plower, Andy Donaldson.
The plowable.
Every single week in Film Club, we invite you along to watch a film with us. We dive into some of cinema's best before coming back here to talk it out. Andy, we're carrying on with Woody Allen this week. We did Zelig last, and this time it's Annie Hall.
Annie Hall, indeed.
So, first time watching Annie Hall?
First time, second Woody Allen film, first time watching Annie Hall. Heard this about this film before. Not many things, but I heard of it.
If someone's never seen this, what's the idea? What's Annie Hall about?
Annie Hall is about a relationship of Annie Hall and Alfie Singer. A failed relationship where the story's been told by Alfie of almost like going through it's what's it called, non-linear narrative of like different spots in the relationship. When it worked, when it didn't work, how they met, how they ended thereafter, and the little snippets in between. And it's about him like almost talking to himself and like reminiscing those moments of that relationship.
I love how exacerbated you were at that moment. It's about him and life and
a bit of everything.
All the things that we experience.
Alfie Singer is a bit of a egotistic intellectual. Not that he's not likable, but at the same time, there's traits of him that's not likable.
Immensely flawed.
Yeah,
as a character, he's immensely flawed. So, what did you think of this?
I wasn't as keen on it as I thought I would be.
Right. Okay.
I couldn't connect with the characters, and that's a major thing for me. Whether or not it was down to I don't know what it's maybe because they were both flawed characters, but so I couldn't help watching this and compare it to 500 Days of Summer. Hence why I mentioned it just then.
Yeah, I mean, this heavily influenced 500 Days of Summer.
I was going to say. Whereas 500 Days of Summer, they both have flaws, but because maybe with it's a bit more modern, maybe because there's different factors, but it's a bit more relatable, more so to Joseph Gordon-Levitt than Zooey Deschanel, apart from towards the end. Anyway, my point is, I found it harder to relate to this one. Not that the issues were any significantly different, more so because I just found that their flaws are a bit more niche.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, because there's the obvious difference. If you want to talk it as a comparison between 500 Days of Summer and Annie Hall.
Not that they should be compared.
They shouldn't be. But in terms of your watching experience, that's like kind of how it's hit you. And in Woody Allen's Annie Hall, they are way more, at least, what's he called? Woody Allen himself is way more intellectual.
Alfie Singer, massively. It's like a recurring theme throughout their relationship. Of
much more of a higher brow intellect. So a lot of the jokes, a lot of his context, a lot of his understanding of relationships and problems with relationships come from his intellect.
Yeah, but that's his flaw.
That is something that can very easily be read as a pretense, and that pretense is not there in 500 Days of Summer. Bear in mind, everyone's got to remember this came out 40 years prior?
Probably, yeah, 1977.
30 years prior, maybe. 1977, which, important for what? Why is 1977 important? What came out in 1977? It rhymes with Barnos.
Star Wars came out in 77, yeah.
1977.
I'm thinking of the 80s, sorry.
And even though Star Wars came out this year, Annie Hall won Best Picture.
Wow. Interesting.
This for Woody Allen was a huge film, and like he has mentioned in interviews previously that after Annie Hall, he kind of like sees a lot of his films as being pre-Annie Hall and post-Annie Hall, because this is where he felt his filmmaking grew up.
Would you call it his magnum opus?
It's up there. Lots and lots of people would. Annie Hall is a very influential film, both in terms of filmmaking style and even stylistically. Like some people love the fashion of this film. And it's a very influential. I've always got a soft spot for Manhattan. We discussed it last week. I really love Manhattan, so I think there's a discussion to be had around it. But he sees this as being the point where his filmmaking grew up and took itself seriously, and he moved on from sort of like the slapsticky comedy of his previous films, and really started to tell much more emotionally deepened work.
And you can't deny that watching it. You can't deny that it's got a lot of feeling and a lot of thought behind it. Whilst I didn't connect with the characters and their flaws and their vices and their virtues, let's say, it was hard not to see the technical aspects of the film. If you go about this, like one of my two things I don't think was done around much back then. You'll probably help me out. Is the first, he's breaking the fourth wall, like not often done, and I loved how he turned to the camera. One of my early on in the film, one of my favourite moments is when he sat in the school thing and he goes, "I kissed a girl when I was 6." Then he's speaking back to the teacher as the Woody Allen older. Great, absolutely I love that. Or later on where he's at the table, he's like, "Can I believe this family?" And then leading on to that, just a little thing that happened there after that scene is the way it breaks, and you got that amazing scene where they're at they're at the counselling, and you hear him talk, and then to the counsellor, and then her talk, and it's back and forth between them, despite different rooms, different areas. Great, but
and with that, I think we've got to mention it's got one of the most iconic openings of a film ever, where he has he's just standing in front of a blank wall delivering this almost stand-up routine, this joke about the Groucho Marx joke where he wouldn't be part of a club that would have him, and that has gone to be very, very influential. You mix with the fourth wall breaking, obviously we've got to be Ferris Bueller and all that sort of stuff. And then maybe the crowning achievement, I think, clearly for him as a filmmaker that he has in this film is the character of Annie Hall, because she's such a well-developed character throughout. By the end of the film, she's a very well-developed character. Yeah. The thing is, she starts out as a not very well-developed character.
Almost naive, isn't she?
She starts out as very much a two-dimensional young girl, but that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
And as she allows those outside influences to impact her and grow her own mind, she not only develops because of Alvy, but more frequently she develops in spite of Alvy, which is the most impressive thing about it. And then it's kind of its crowning jewel being that by the end she outgrows the protagonist.
Yeah.
And it's like having a romance where the guy doesn't get the girl in the end.
It's almost like he's at a block in the road sort of thing. That's a really terrible quote phrase.
He's a building block of her life.
No, but what I really like about it is about that. What you're just saying there is, I had that thought there. At the start of the film, she doesn't, like you said, she's 2D. She doesn't go out. She only knows him. She's infatuated with him, and it's, "Oh my God, you're amazing up there," and everything like that. Then she starts to see other people, and he's like, "Yeah, go and see this. I'm going to introduce you to them. Read this book or go to this lecture on this. Expanding your mind." Then that comes back to bite him in the ass, and he's not happy later on. Then it's just you're contradicting. Which again, if you look at the editing clearly shows a contradiction, which is great. And then you see that that progression and expansion of the character at the end, where she's obviously with someone else. She's met other people, and she has expanded through those. Developed, not expanded, developed.
Yeah. I always think that's Woody Allen's greatest strength as a filmmaker is being able to portray fundamentally flawed characters. People who are fundamentally flawed, and that has serious impact on their lives. And he doesn't try to cover it up with Hollywood magic. He just kind of goes, "Yeah, that person's flawed. Sorry."
I wouldn't know. Like I said, it's my second Woody Allen film
because he's not flawed.
True. But I will look out for that. I'll look out for that more in future Woody Allen films, like that kind of the flawed kind of.
We've also got to mention. I just feel like it's our responsibility in 2019. To mention the controversy of we mentioned it last week. I think it's horrible. It hangs over every Woody Allen film now. That there is this little bit of Woody Allen's a filmmaker you have to tread lightly with at the moment, and he always brings up the argument artist versus art and how much you're willing to separate that in the current climate. As we mentioned last week, he's involved in a whole bunch of controversy, more so with Zelig because that had his ex-wife in as well. Here we have Diane Keaton playing Annie Hall, and they used to be in a relationship as well.
I didn't know. Right, okay, I didn't know that. So thankfully, my opinion of this was all done without that kind of knowledge. So I think you can safely say that as an art form...
But you knew it from last week.
I didn't know about, what's her name, Diane Keaton.
He's allowed to be in a relationship with people.
No, yeah, I know, but it's almost he's... I don't know. He's allowed to be in a relationship, but then it's next film is oh yeah, he went out with her as well, and then went to see her daughter as well.
It's once.
Yeah. It's just a bit coincidental. Anyway, my point is, I didn't know that at all, so I get him in these films. blind to that, and I enjoyed Zelig an awful lot more because I think it was an entirely different film, but
very different.
Zelig just made me laugh so much. Whereas this, it was a drama. It was a very intellectual film, but it wasn't that I didn't enjoy. I do like that. It's just the fact I couldn't empathize too much with the characters. I couldn't relate to them. And it's not that you're supposed to relate to them, but it's hard to like kind of when I watch like a film about love, about people together. You look at something like I said 500 Days Summer. I can't think like what's it called, that one I really like about where they go away. The fourth one we did
Like Crazy.
Thank you, Like Crazy. Hard. It's easy to like kind of empathize with those two. It's easy to like kind of attach yourself to like the relationship. I couldn't do it in this. I couldn't attach myself to the relationships. I wasn't sad or happy or anything when they split up. It was just like split up.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's just me.
No, that's fine. Like it's a perfectly valid response to it. Whereas I'm completely opposite way around. Of like, I really enjoyed Zelig, but this to me is substantially better. I enjoy this much more. But anyway, there is Annie Hall. Let us know in the comments below what you think of Annie Hall. Have you seen Annie Hall before? When was the first time you saw it? Because I know it's a real classic in the world of cinema. So let us know in the comments below. Hit us up on Twitter as well. But we will be back once again, and I did it again, always with the we will be backs.
We will be back.
We will be back once again next week, where we are going to take a look at Heat.
Yes. And then we pave the way into our kind of gangster kind of like themes, and then one day we'll do The Godfather.
Until then, get watching.